Woo! Oh my goodness. What a great day it is here inside the community. Thank you, all of you, for being here. We're so excited.
Absolutely. Today is an extra special day because one of our very favorite people, someone who has just added so much value to our life, so much love, so much interesting information. He's just a cool dude and so ridiculously smart. You're not going to believe it.
This is incredible. And by the way, so special shout out to our very own Brian Simmons, one of the leaders here in the community who lined this up for us today. Incredible leader. Really appreciate him reaching out and making this connect. But for those of you who don't know anything about Eli Schaugh, the gentleman who you're going to be hearing from today, let me just give you a couple key points before we bring him up on stage here. So
and
first,
by the way, this is just scratching the surface.
Yeah, this is barely what he's been accomplishing, but these are some key points that'll help you to understand who you're dealing with here, the horsepower that's on the call today. So founding member of Success Coaching. We've all heard of Success Coaching. That's the coaching arm that EXPI has now acquired. Incredible. He's the founding coach and lead trainer for all of the coaches at Success Coaching. We went through the certification. We got certified with Eli. Incredible. Also certified master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and hypnotherapy. He's a realtor, hello, and master certified negotiation expert. So if he's not qualified, I don't know who would be to be able to show us what's up today, man.
He's also a professional performer doing things like dance, theater, music, movies, like everything.
I think he's been an astronaut, like he founded a couple countries all by himself. I don't know, man. This guy's done everything. It's exciting to have him here. Eli, thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Wow, I feel like now I need to hop on that. I gotta found some countries, and I gotta maybe I'll do the astronaut thing, and I'll make a new country somewhere out there. We'll see what happens. But thanks for the introduction. It's really exciting to be here.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure.
There's a few people here who I know, which is also really exciting. And those of you who I haven't met before, I'm looking forward to getting to hang out with you today. The main reason why I was brought in is because of a course that I wrote, and we're going to be going through kind of a fast-paced version of it today, giving you a lot of the backbone of how to be incredibly successful at your consultations. And it's going to be taking the perspective of neuro-linguistic programming, which is about, for those of you who aren't familiar with that, how the mind works, essentially, how to communicate as effectively as you possibly can, and combining it with some coaching skills so that you can actually have a massive impact on your consultations and convert at a much higher rate than you ever have before. It's a big part of what I'm known for. I've been teaching this stuff for years and years. And it's why when I was working full-time in sales, I've had the success that I did. So I'm going to be teaching a lot of this stuff to you today. So let me get my screen shared here, and we're going to jump right in. Now, along the way, there are probably going to be some questions, and I absolutely invite those. If it's something that is going to go into tremendous depth in a direction that we don't have time for, I'll make sure to let you know that. I'll answer everything that I possibly can. And my favorite way to interact with questions is if you use the reaction button in Zoom and you actually do the raise hand function, not the clap hands, because that'll go away after a few seconds and I might not know that you've done it. But if you actually raise your hand, it'll move your screen to the front of the set that I've got, because I can't see everybody at the same time. It's a large group. So if you want my attention, please do that. If you put something in the chat, there's a good chance I'm not going to see it. So please raise your hand and I will call on you, and I will actually make sure that I get to answer your questions. So welcome to what's going to be called Secrets to Consultations That Convert. We're going to be going through a bunch of different steps so that you can build a particular skill set and technique around how to run your consultations as effectively as you possibly can, so that you're going to create motivated, excited, and committed clients. Because we want that level of commitment from our clients. Someone who raises their hand and says, yeah, I think I'd like to work with you. That's the one where 2-3 weeks or maybe a month down the line, we find ourselves wishing we hadn't started working with them in the first place. We don't really know what they want. We can't really help them. We've wasted our time, our energy, sometimes our money. That's not how to play to win. I want to teach you how to play to win, so that every person you work with is going to be a slam dunk, and they're going to want to work exclusively with you. That's the goal. Exclusively work with you. So just that tiny little bit about me. This is who I am. You already heard about some of the stuff that I do. There's a little bit more here. It's all relevant. And the bottom line is, if I can demonstrate value to you today, then my titles really don't matter. So let's jump into the content and get to that value. When you start working with a lead or a prospect, the very first thing that you need to do is build rapport. Rapport is the name of the game. This is the foundation to everything else that you're going to do. Oh, and I'll pause really quickly. Because of the weather here today, I might every once in a while freeze. If that happens, just sit tight. I'll be back in just a moment if the internet kind of craps out, and I promise I'll be right back. So instant rapport, how to make someone feel like they like you in 30 seconds or less. Now, I'm going to be giving you a very kind of topical overview of how this works, but if you practice exactly what I share with you today, it will work. And those people who are on this call who have been through the coaching certification got a deeper training in this. The full length course of this gives you a very, very deep training in this. But these basic skills that I'm going to share with you right now are how you can build really rapid rapport, which is the foundation of trust. And if someone's going to choose to work with you exclusively, there must be a foundation of trust. So let's just jump right in. What is rapport in the first place? It's that feeling of liking. This is different from actually liking someone because it happens before you even know the person. You don't know them well enough to actually like them, but that feeling is there. Oh, I think I like this person. There's something kind of comfortable going on here. So the process of rapport causes this feeling as if the people involved like each other. And rapport is an exercise in responsiveness. So it's not necessarily liking, but how you respond to someone and that feeling that develops between you and your lead or your prospect. So these are the foundational building blocks that are going to help you develop rapport. Let's take a look. Actually, I'll give you those blocks in a second. It's important to really understand why this matters as much as it does. So rapport is what's going to allow you to help people without resistance. Have any of you, just quick show of hands, I'm going to open up how many I can see on my screen. Those of you who are on camera, quick show of hands. How many of you have encountered that lead or that prospect? I really want to work with this person, but there's something that's not right. They're resisting. I don't know why, but there's just, I can't quite get where I want to go. Have you ever had that experience? Yeah. All right. Basically, if you're a human being, you probably have had that experience. And it causes a discomfort as well. Why doesn't this person like me? What am I not doing right? Is it me? It's probably me. It's got to be. We start blaming ourselves and we want to force it. We want to fix it. We want to make things work. And it actually tends to make things worse instead of better. So creating rapport, so you have that going with kind of mentality, it's going to really change how you start a consultation and how you move all the way through it. Without this foundation, you're going to encounter resistance from the beginning all the way through the end, and the chance of the person working with you is going to be significantly lower. So when you're in rapport with someone, you're open to each other's ideas, suggestions, and influence. It's a two-way street. You're going to be receptive as well. And part of how you can know that you're in rapport is when you feel receptive to the other person. It's a very important sign that they are likely now receptive to you as well. So rapport is going to affect trust in a really significant way. And all good relationships, personal, business, whatever, are built on trust, and rapport aids in the development of trust. So how do you do this? Well, I'm going to give you one technique right now about how to develop rapport, how to do it fast and effectively, and it's called pacing and leading. You're going to pace twice. That's why it's written twice at the top of this slide, and then you're going to lead. Pacing occurs when you match or mirror someone else's body language, tonality, or words. Now, we don't have time to go into all of the different elements of these three ways of communicating. But I think that if you were to take a moment, this I do want you to put in the chat, what are some elements of body language, tonality, or words that would be appropriate for you to mirror or match? And I realize I haven't given you those definitions yet, but they are on the screen. I'm going to take a look at the chat. What are some things that you could mirror or match in body language, tonality, or words? Okay, I see leaning in, hand gestures. What else? Speech pace, smiling, nodding, facial expressions. These are all correct. And there's so many more. So you can mirror, how they're sitting. You can repeat what is said. using their specific words. These are all ways for you to start building rapport. Now I'm going to close the chat. So mirroring is done by reflecting back exactly what you receive. So in body language, this is accomplished by moving or adjusting your own physiology to be specifically and exactly the same as whatever's in front of you. So if somebody lifts up their right hand, you would lift up your left hand and it would look like a mirror. It's actually as if you're looking in a mirror. This can be a little bit uncomfortable for some people. So the alternative is something called matching, where you do something that's similar, but it's more subtle. So instead of reflecting exactly what the other person's doing, you take on a similar physiology or behavior. So if they were to raise their right hand, you would also raise your right hand. It's not going to look exactly the same, but you're doing something that's similar. You can get a little more complex. If someone crosses their arms, you could cross your legs. And that is a form of matching instead of mirroring. The trick is you're going to pick two things. 1, 2, that's it. You're done. You do more than that, you're imitating and it gets really annoying and people are going to think that something's weird. So you just do 2 things and then you lead. You're going to try leading, meaning you're going to do something. And if they follow you, if they pace your lead, that's an indication, a strong indication that now you're in rapport. So you're going to do something different after you've paced these 2 things. And if they follow you, it's an indication that you're in rapport. You will typically start to have a different feeling in your body. You're going to feel a little more comfortable. There's going to be this kind of connection between you and your prospect. And that's going to reinforce that what you've noticed is actually true. The feeling of liking is developing. They followed what you did, and you have evidence now that you're in rapport. This is a really, really important subject. Normally I teach for about 60 to 90 minutes on this one subject. I'm giving you just the surface right now because we have a lot of other stuff I want to make sure that we cover today. But I will pause for just a moment, very briefly, to ask if there are any questions about this particular subject, as it is the foundation for absolutely everything else that I'll be sharing with you today. Going once, going twice. Either you're shy or I'm just a phenomenal teacher at this stuff. So either way, I'm going to move on. If you do find that you have a question, feel free to raise your hand later. But let's keep going with the training because there's so much here to cover. Oh, I see a couple of things showed up in the chat. Oh, all right. I'll take the compliment. Thank you. I appreciate it. Here we go. Let's keep going. Once you're in rapport, you're going to move on to asking questions. There are a lot of different kinds of questions that you could ask. We're going to go through these in order. I know there's a big crossed out word in the middle. I'm going to explain that in a moment. We're going to start with the ones that I do want you to ask, because the better you can learn about your prospect, the more effectively you're going to be able to help them. So you're going to focus on who, what, where, and when questions. Some examples are what we have listed here, but they're far from all that you could potentially use. Who questions. If you're talking with a buyer or seller, who's involved? Please make sure that you ask this question. If you sit down and you have a phenomenal appointment with someone and it turns out that they're not the decision maker or not the only person involved in making a decision, you've wasted a lot of time. So right at the beginning, or potentially before you go on the appointment, ask who is involved. Really important information to have. If someone's going to be buying, you probably want to ask who will be living with you. Now, I phrase that one very carefully because of federal fair housing laws. Can't ask about family, can't ask about children unless they bring it up first. So who will be living with you is a nice open question. If they mention their spouse, if they mention their kids or their parents or whoever, now you can talk about that stuff, but you want to start from a safe place where you're not infringing on any protected classes or rights. So who will be living with you is a great way to open that subject. Who will be visiting? Who's ever asked that during a consultation with a buyer or seller? This is probably more of a buyer question. Have you ever asked who's going to be visiting you? What kind of subject matter is that likely going to open up in your conversation? Somebody unmute. and tell me what that's going to open up.
Extra rooms.
Extra rooms for sure. What else?
Accessibility concerns.
Accessibility concerns, absolutely. What else?
Parking, entertainment spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. These are all completely appropriate things to talk with your client about. And I'm going to say client because at this point, you already have the outcome in your mind. This is going to be my client as long as I want them to be. Not every client's your client. You don't have to take everybody, but if you want them to be your client, you're setting this up right from the beginning. So by asking who's going to visit, it's now taking the idea of a home and making it such a bigger picture. If you're only talking about, well, how many bedrooms do you need? And you forget that they have a family that might be visiting every other weekend and they need that extra bedroom or the guest house or the finished basement or whatever it is, and it never came up, now you're looking for the wrong kind of property. So right out of the gate, who's going to be visiting you is a question that I strongly, strongly recommend in your consultations. And who else should we be including in the conversation? It could be a lender. It could be a parent. It could be that friend who thinks they know everything because they watch HGTV, whatever it is. Who should we be including in the conversation so it's not a surprise later? I'm not big on surprises when I'm doing business. I'd rather know up front who we're dealing with and who else we need to be including. Then let's move over to the what section over here. Let's talk about what questions. What questions are fantastic. They're open-ended. They're going to give you a lot of information. So I like asking questions that are going to give me all the information that I need. What matters to you the most? Not just what matters to you, but what matters to you the most. Let's really dig in about the things they care about. And then these are my 3 most essential questions for every consultation, whether it's a buyer or a seller. What are your needs? What are your wants? And what are your deal breakers? Now, needs and wants, a lot of people talk about, and we separate those out. Your needs are your must-haves, can't live without, absolutely 100% important. If I don't have this thing, I will never, ever, ever move forward. Wants are the things I'd like to have, but if I don't, it's not going to stop me. I'll be a lot more motivated if I have those things, but it's not going to stop me from moving forward. Deal breakers are the opposite of needs, meaning if we have every single need and every single want, but there's this problem, then I'm never going to move forward. Some examples that I use when I occasionally still work with buyers and sellers. I'm a coach full-time now, but I do work by referral, and I have family and friends that I still help out from time to time, and the people that they send me. When we get to this point, I'll offer a few suggestions. Back when I lived in Los Angeles, the easiest one that I used was, well, what if it's too close to the freeway? There's noise pollution, air pollution, sound pollution, all this kind of stuff that's going on. There's tons of traffic. So you found your perfect house, dream home, everything you want and more, but it's right next to the freeway. And people start going, oh, well, in that case, maybe I wouldn't do it. All right, we got to know what these deal breakers are, is put some boundaries around what we're going to be looking for so that we're not wasting any time. And by the way, because I didn't mention this earlier, when I work with buyers, on average, and this is for the last 8 years, on average, we end up looking 3 times. We go out once. This is nice. We go out twice. All right, I'm pretty sure I've found it. We go out a 3rd time, we're done. If I have to take a buyer out more than 3 times, I know I've done something wrong. I know I've done something wrong. And then again, with my personal averages, we write 1 offer and it's accepted and we're done. I'm not the kind of agent who's out there for 3, 4, 5 months writing 10, 20, 30 offers. 1. And what I'm teaching here is the reason why. I get all of this info up front. We know exactly what they're looking for. We also know exactly what to avoid. The needs, wants, and deal breakers are a huge part of that process so that we can create success instead of just trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. Those of you who have worked with me or trained with me before, you know I hate the word try. It implies failure. Keep trying. You're only going to keep failing. I'd prefer to just do it. And these three sets of criteria, what are your needs, what are your wants, what are deal breakers? Huge leverage point for the success that I've had in sales. Then, of course, we're going to talk about where. Where are you looking? Where should you be looking that you're not? It gets people to think differently. They've focused in on, this is the neighborhood, this is where I want to be, and they stop thinking about anything else. Well, guess what? That neighborhood's not the only one that exists. Maybe it's not realistic. So I just ask them kind of point blank, where should you be looking that you're not? And it opens the conversation in some pretty spectacular ways. Then, of course, where do you work? We got to consider commutes. What are your regular points of interest? Where do you like to go? Let's make sure that this is going to fit your whole life, not just a small set of criteria. And then when. I like to work with people who are motivated. So when do you want to move? That's interesting. When do you need to move? That's what I really care about. Because if they're talking 12 months out, all right, cool, we'll stay in touch, but I'm not giving you all my time and energy today. And when would you like to, and you can fill in that question however you want. When would you like to start looking? When would you like to take the next step? When would you like to get your pre-approval? When would you like to, all of this other stuff. So you can create a timeline. Having a timeline is very important for working with motivated and committed clients. And then in the middle, we've got why, because typically when we get through who, what, where, and when, people assume, great, now I'm going to ask why, because the 5 W's. No, please do not ask why. It causes people to get defensive. Now, all of a sudden, I need to have evidence to back up my reason for everything. And I'm probably going to tell you a really long story about it and waste our time. I don't need to know why. I need to know who, what, where, and when. Why is not going to help me. If you feel compelled to ask why, I recommend instead that you ask how. And right here at the bottom of this list, I'll jump to it first. How come? If you really find yourself compelled to ask why, I recommend that you ask how come instead. It's a softer question. You're going to get the information you need without the defensiveness of how people respond to why. Some other how questions, these are process questions. This is really important to getting things moving forward. So how will you know when you have blank? How will you know when you have received the right offer? How will you know when you have found the right home? We're getting evidence. And during all of this questioning time, I strongly recommend that you take notes, because this is stuff you're going to need to refer to later when it's time to close. You're going to need this stuff, and you're going to need it in their words, not your interpretation of their words, their specific words, because you're going to use them later. So how will you know when you have fill in the blank? How will you decide that I'm the right agent or who the right agent is? How will you use your new home, this kitchen that you've talked about? How did you decide to buy this home? That's going to give you insight into the strategy they use to make decisions. You want to follow that strategy. I don't have time to get into how that works very much today, but it's very important to understand the strategy of how people make decisions. Because if you can take them through their decision-making process effectively, then you know how to help them get over the finish line. So how did you decide, and how do you know? This is all looking for the process of how your prospect thinks. When you can speak directly to their process, how they determine success, now you're part of that process. If you understand the way somebody works, you can participate with it. Otherwise, you're kind of flying blind. You're making a lot of assumptions instead of working with facts. So you want to ask these how questions and really learn about the way the prospect thinks and how they want to go through the process of either buying or selling, so that you can help them do that, their version, specifically, and how it's appropriate to them. All of these questions that you're asking are going to help you recover what's called lost information. You're going to go digging for details, because as someone explains themselves to you, they're going to be doing at least one of these 3 things, but usually all 3 at the same time. There's going to be generalizations in how they explain themselves, which means that they're comparing one experience to another that may or may not be related. And they're going to be generalizing information from a past experience and applying it to the present, which may not be appropriate. There are also going to be distortions in the things that they tell you. They're going to be mistaking information to mean something that it doesn't. Or at the very least, you're going to be mistaking what they're saying to mean something that it doesn't. We all are doing this all the time because there's only so much information we can process in the moment. So for us to understand what other people are saying, we must generalize, distort, and delete, which I'll talk about in a moment, so that we can stay in the moment. Oh, that looks like something I've seen before. Oh, I got all the information I need. I know how to do that. Great example, opening a door. There are a lot of different kinds of doorknobs, handles, things that you have to push or pull, but we all know how a door works. So usually we approach a door and we just go to open it. Have you ever had that experience? I certainly have, where you walk up to that door and you think you're going to walk right through it, and you reach out and something doesn't go quite the way you expected it to, and then you walk right into the door. I've done it. That push instead of pull, or it's locked when I didn't think it would be, and your body keeps going, but the door doesn't move. Well, you generalized the experience of walking through a door. You applied it to this particular door. You deleted the details about this specific door and distorted it to mean something that it didn't mean, and it didn't work the way that you anticipated. This happens through conversation on a regular basis, and we all do these things. It's just part of how we operate. The mind can only handle so much information at a time, and we make a lot of assumptions. So these distortions lead to misinterpreting information and acting based on that misinterpretation. And then there's deletions, which cause the leaving out of important information or leaving out part of our experience of the world. So if somebody were to say, I don't like that, what the heck do they mean? First of all, what does liking mean to that person, and to what degree do they like or dislike the thing they're talking about? And what is that? Is it the way that you just said the thing that they're responding to, or is it a specific thing that they're talking about, or is it this specific thing in this specific context? I don't like that. Well, I don't like what? I don't like that door. That specific door, or where the door is, or how it's shaped, or the color of it, or what? There's so much missing information. Every single piece of information that you can get clarity around with the prospect is going to help you serve them better. So if you start asking all these what, where, when, who, and how questions, and let's go, for example, somebody says, I think that for my perfect home, it's going to have a walkway to the front door. Okay, great, a walkway. How long is it? What's it made of? Is it flat? Is it winding? Is it gravel? Is it paved? Is it handicap accessible? Is it surrounded by lights or trees or flowers? Does it go all the way to the street, or does it go to the driveway? Or does it go to both? Or wait a second, why are we even talking about the front of the house? Is this in the back of the house? Where is this? There are so many details about every single aspect. And the more details that you can get from your lead, the better you'll be able to help them. And guess what? Basically, nobody else is going to do it. Meaning if it's you versus any other agent or group of agents, they're interviewing a lot of people, and you go to this level of detail and nobody else does, guess who's going to stand out as the most professional, effective, ready to help them agent? It's not going to be the other people. They didn't even think to ask these questions. So the deeper you go, the more details you get, the better not only can you help them, but the more they will trust that you can help them. I see some heads nodding, so I'm going to go with this being some helpful information here. Let's keep going, because I want to make sure we get through everything today, and we've got a lot, which is exciting. We're going to look at how it all ties together. So we're going to introduce a really cool subject that is linked to questioning, which is called chunking. Chunking is a specific term. It comes from neurolinguistic programming, and it refers to changing levels of detail and information. So you can chunk up to the big picture as you become more abstract. So if someone says that they need a 2-bedroom place to live, we can chunk up from a 2-bedroom place to live to the bigger picture. Well, what's a 2-bedroom place to live an example of? Well, housing. Well, what's housing an example of? Shelter. So like you get to the bigger picture of their need, and it becomes more and more abstract. On the other hand, you can go down into the details to get more specific. Well, I need a 2-bedroom. Great. What's each bedroom going to be for? How big does it need to be? Should each one have a closet? Do you want hardwood? Do you want carpeting? Do they have to have their own bathroom? Those are the details that's chunking down. So the big picture is their desire, the thing they want is their outcome, and the details are all the little pieces that make it work. This is a huge subject. I see a couple of people nodding along who have had training in this from me before, and they know just how in depth we go. And just so you know, because Jeff, I see you nodding along the most, what we do when I teach the full level of this is one day. This section is basically a full day of what I teach. And we go for, I think in the certification, we taught this for maybe 20 minutes. And I think that we go for about an hour. And when we go even deeper in how to use this, because we talk about it specifically in using it in sales, not just in coaching. It's a huge subject, but here's what makes it so. Oh, Jeff, go ahead.
Well, Eli, first off, I'm loving this content, and anybody, by the way, if you guys are out there and you're finding value in what's happening today, just do me a favor. It always helps, gives everyone a lot of energy. Just put it yes really quickly in the chat. Just shows us you're out there. You guys are on point. Loving that. The lead trainer from Success Coaching would give us a day today. Like amazing, right? Yes. Thank you, Daniel, Charles, Delita, Veronica. Oh my gosh, everybody. Thank you guys. That's incredible. Also, by the way, this idea of chunking up and chunking down, if you've never been introduced to this before, like come back to this later in the recording. We'll have this in the members portal, but I want you guys to understand, like this stuff can go so deep. And Eli, when he has more time to spend on this, can really help you to understand how this topic can play into your business at a very high level to get results you're passionate about. Thank you, everybody. Emily, Amira, Elle, I see you guys. Seth, all you guys out there really supporting Eli today. Eli, this is rocking, man. Thank you so much again for being here. This is so cool.
Absolutely. Thank you. And when we talk about this subject, I probably get more excited about this particular topic than almost anything else because of how absolutely life-changing this one particular skill is. It's actually referred to as the genius pattern. People who were outrageously successful, like Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, they famously were good at this because they could go big picture. I want to create Disneyland. And they could go to every detail, and every lamppost is going to look like this. And they could go up and down this ladder of big picture details, and connect them together in a way that most people can't.
It starts to feel like a superpower when you're practicing it. Even, and I'll be honest, this was new to me when you brought it up in the Success Coaching certification. And it was interesting because you start using it even at a novice level and you start feeling superhuman. You're like, wow, I'm drawing results out of people that I just didn't even understand it was possible so quickly. It's pretty rad. So thank you for doing this today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to focus specifically on how to use this skill in sales and negotiation, because it's absolutely critical to effective sales and negotiations. Moving up and down this ladder is incredibly important. Objections. Anytime you get an objection, you want to start by chunking up. It's going to help you discover the purpose or the intention of the objection. You could ask questions like, well, what's really your intention? What do you want? What's that going to do for you? What's that going to mean for you? What's that going to give you? If they have an objection, you want to learn their big picture, what motivates them, and what caused them to object in the first place. Then you're also going to chunk down into the details as much as you possibly can to understand the structure of the objection, because it's a surface layer and you need to know what's really underneath it, because that's what you're going to address. You're going to use that information and you're going to do something called a lateral chunk. I'll tell you what that is because it's a weird term. Again, we don't have time to go into every layer of this right now, but a lateral trunk would go something like this. And I'll use an example of food because it tends to make this really, really easy. So if someone is talking about bread, well, bread is an example of food. That's the bigger concept that bread is part of. Well, what's a different example of food? Well, popcorn. That would be called a lateral chunk. So you go up to the thing that connects them and then down to something else. In negotiation, this is absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. Now, some of you are doing this naturally and you didn't even know you were doing it. Those of you who haven't been doing it, start today. And those of you who have been doing it naturally, now you can do it more intentionally. You'll get even better results. When I learned about this, I had been doing it on my own, and then I started doing it on purpose, and the time it took me to create agreement went down significantly. So in negotiations, you always want to chunk up to the big thing that everybody agrees on, as much as is necessary until there's agreement. So I want to pay this. Well, I'll only take that. Well, I really want to buy this house. Well, I really want to sell this house. Well, we agree that we want this transaction to work. Then we start chunking down into the details that will make it work. So you find the level of agreement, you chunk down to the specifics. Anytime you hit resistance between the two parties, you chunk back up to what they can agree on, only as high as you need to, and then down again into the details. All right, well, we agreed on this price. Well, I want it on this timeline. I want it on that timeline. Okay, that doesn't work, but we do want this to work. Yes, well, how can we make it happen? We start getting those details again, but you have to bring people back to the level of agreement. It's going to keep the momentum of a sale going instead of getting stuck in the combative mode of I want this, no, I want that. Well, screw you, let's walk away. No, we want the same thing. We have to continue to bring people back to the thing that they share, what they have in common, their goal that they both want to achieve. And from there, we can work out the details. Anytime you hit resistance in a negotiation, chunk back up to the level of agreement, get people wanting to succeed, and then come back down to the negotiation points. By doing this, you can separate intention from behavior. In sales and negotiation, you want to start by chunking up. You're going to ask for what purpose or figure out what someone's intention. Understanding the reason why someone's behaving a certain way will ultimately help you move them towards their larger, more significant goal. And every time a person gets excited about their larger goal, that's when you start chunking down into those details again, to the activities and the terms that will help them accomplish their desired outcome. So in sales, that's objection handling. In negotiations, it's what's going to keep each party connected to that larger positive outcome while the specific terms are discussed and then ultimately agreed upon. I would like all of you to please take a screenshot of this slide. Mostly because I don't have time to go through all of the details of it. I want you to have this as an access point for you. You can chunk up with all of these questions on the left. You're going to get to what motivates the person, what they care about the most. And you're going to chunk down to figure out how to get them what they want. I'll leave that up for another 4 seconds. Okay. When you chunk up effectively, you're going to discover values. These are what are important to us on a deep subconscious level. Alternatively, these are the high-level generalizations that motivate us. And our values are going to do 2 things for us. They're going to dictate what we spend our time on, and they're going to be a filter through which we judge not only our own actions, but everybody else's. So if I think something's really important and you behave in a way that shows that you don't think that's important, I'm going to have certain feelings about you. It's just human nature. You're going to do the same thing for me. So you want to discover what someone's values are. And once you've elicited them, you're going to create what's called a values hierarchy. You're going to rank them from most important to least important. You can just ask them really simple questions that are on this slide. What's most important to you? What's next? What's next? What's next? this can show up in the form of your needs analysis. Well, we need to have this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms, this price, this area, this much land. It has to have a pool or a yard or a whatever. All right, great. These are all the things you need. What's most important? If you could only have one thing on this list, which one would it be? Okay, then of what's remaining, what would it be? You got to get them in order so you know what to focus on. We need all these things, but if having a backyard is less important than being in that right neighborhood, then maybe the size of that backyard can be flexible. By the way, the top 3 needs of every buyer are going to be price, size, and location. That's what I call the buying triangle. Price, size, and location, and they cannot all be the same. It is not an equilateral triangle. One of them will be more flexible than the other 2. It's absolutely necessary. So if someone needs to be in a specific neighborhood, and that's the most important thing, then how much they're going to spend becomes more flexible. They still have a maximum. There's how much they can afford, but they'll be willing to go to the maximum of their budget for that location. So the location is what's driving the search, not the budget. We have to stay within that budget, but they're willing to go all in for the right location. Or if they could get that extra bedroom, they'd be willing to be more flexible on where they are, the location, to get the size that they care about more. So how we're structuring the search, what we're looking at the most is going to be based on their buying triangle. And we'll focus it in that order. Because if someone is really clear that they have to be in a certain place, then they also have to understand right out of the gate that if it costs more for them to be there, they got to be ready to do that. If they're not ready to do that, that could be a deal breaker for working with them in the first place. So using your values in a consultation. In sales consultations, it's really important to learn about your prospect's values. So just ask about their values relating to whatever it is that you're selling that day. So if your sales process requires multiple steps, you're going to ask about their values for each step. So in real estate sales, this might look like a listing or a buyer consultation, but there's going to be more to it than just that. In your buyer consultation, for example, the agent must sell themselves to the prospect as being worthy of their business. That's step 1. So you have to interview for the job. So it's going to be really important to understand their values for an agent and also for the sales process. What they want in an agent and what they want from the process are 2 different sets of values. And then another one that you might need to uncover would be their ideal home. So in any buyer's consultation, there's actually 3 sets of values that you have to elicit. What do you want in an agent? What do you want from this process? And then what's the home that you actually want? They're all important. And if you miss any of them, you're not operating at the highest level that you possibly can. Because you have to sell yourself. You have to make sure that they want to go through this process with you. And only if those 2 things happen, does it matter what their ideal home is. If you spend the whole time talking about their ideal home, but they don't like you or trust you, or you don't understand how they want to go through this, and you can't speak to those important things, then what home they want becomes irrelevant because they're not working with you. You got to cover all 3 of these areas in a buyer consultation. Same goes for the seller side. What do they want in an agent? What do they want from the process? What's their ideal sale? So using these values, you're going to complete your full needs analysis. We talked about this earlier. What are your needs? The things you must have, can't live without, and keep going. What else? What else? What else? What else? And then get them in order. Same thing for the wants, the things you'd like to have, the bonuses, but you can live without them. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? And then get them in order. So you know what they care about the most. If you have a list of 20 things they'd like to have, but there's the thing they want the most, and you can find that one thing and the other 19 aren't there, they're still going to be ecstatic. If you can get the top 3 or 4, that's going to be blowing it out of the water. They're not going to care about numbers 15 through 20 if you've got them the top 3. If you can get more than that, that's phenomenal. But you need to have the order. You need to know where you're going to focus your time and your energy. And then the deal breakers, same thing. What else? What else? And get the order. So let's give a brief example here. If an agent has a productive buyer consultation, all of the buyer's ideal home values have been elicited, ranked, and recorded, meaning you're taking detailed notes. And then sometime later in your relationship with that buyer, they request to view a property that does not meet one of their top 5 values. Oh, crap. This is where that saying buyers are liars comes from. They changed their mind. They never told me this is what they really cared about. No. If you've done an effective buyer consultation, they're not lying to you. They probably just have shiny object syndrome. They saw something and they got excited about it and they forgot about what's important to them. But if you have really great notes, you can remind them. A lot of agents experience this. So rather than wasting your time, energy, and gas money, just have a conversation. Do not go and rush to show them that house. That's a waste of time. Instead, ask if that missing value is still important to them. And if they're willing to sacrifice it for the property that they claim they'd like to see. In my experience, the buyer's going to express a tremendous amount of gratitude. They're usually going to say, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that wasn't there. No, I can't buy this house. And now you don't have to take the time to go show it because they're never going to buy it in the first place. In fact, it's going to result in a stronger relationship and ultimately a more successful sale that actually does meet all of their values. Just have the conversation. You can even send your notes to them in a format that's appropriate for them. If you've got little personal notes and they're like, they want this, I think that's crazy. Don't send them that part. Just send them the basics that they can see. But with the hierarchy, these are your needs. You said that if you don't have one of these things, you will never live there. Well, this house doesn't have number 4. Are you really willing to give that up? Now, if they say yes, okay, then we need to check on this whole list. What else has changed? Because I don't want to take you out and show you houses and just break your heart when you can't get what you want or you get annoyed that I'm telling you that, I'm not going to waste your time. And I don't want to waste my time either. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to get you exactly what you want. What you just sent me, it doesn't meet what you said you needed. Has something changed, or are we going to stick with the things that you said you needed? All right, we're going to shift gears here. We're going to move into something called future pacing. Future pacing is now you're going to take all these needs and these wants and these deal breakers, you're going to take them out to a future where they have the result that they want. It refers to creating expectations about the future, and you can future pace about goals, dreams, expectations, outcomes, results, everything. This is something that you already do every day, but you're probably doing it wrong, meaning that you're focusing on the wrong stuff and you're setting yourself up for some kind of failure by accident. It's something a lot of people do. Unfortunately, it's a way that people get really, really stuck. So we want to do this better. We want to help our clients do this really well. So the basics of future pacing go like this. Because you get what you focus on, it's really important to focus on what you actually want. It's the opposite of how many people prepare for their future because most people get stuck thinking about what they don't want. It's pain avoidance. It's just a natural part of how we all operate. Your brain is designed, your subconscious mind is designed to keep you safe and protect you. So if it recognizes something that you don't want or that causes pain, it's gonna bump you away from that. No, get away. That's dangerous. That's uncomfortable. I don't like it. It's a significant reason why people fail because they get stuck thinking about these things that they're trying to avoid. And you end up just discovering more of it because it's all that you're thinking about. People end up just getting busy preparing for failure instead of preparing for success. It's a completely different mindset. So anytime that a client tells you what they don't want, make sure that you ask them, okay, if you don't want X, then what do you want instead? If someone says, well, I don't want to live on a busy street, okay, then what do you want instead? It might not just be, I want to live on a not busy street. That's not simple enough. It's not going to work that way. If you ask someone, well, if you don't want to live on a busy street, what do you want instead? You're usually going to get a handful of responses, something that goes along the lines of, I want a place that's quiet with sidewalks where kids can play in the street, where I'm not really going to hear the traffic. Oh, we got a whole bunch of things now. That's important information. Instead of just avoiding one thing, we're finding a bunch of things to actually look for. And when we find them, wow, is this person going to get excited? It is absolutely imperative in sales that you get the answer to this question. So wait as long as it takes. Do not fill in the blank for them. Do not offer suggestions. It has to come from them. If you allow them to only share what they don't want, then you're going to have to guess about what they do want. And you're probably going to be wrong. It's a huge waste of energy, and it can easily lead to a lot of mistakes and failures. So just ask in the consultation. If you don't want whatever it is that they just said, then what do you want instead? Some questions that go along with future pacing to help someone imagine the outcome they actually do want. You can ask, when you have the outcome you want, when you have found your perfect home, or when you have sold this house the way that you wanted to, what will you see? What will you hear? What will you say about it? What will you be telling yourself? What will you feel? And how will you know? If you go through these questions about the ideal outcome that your prospect wants, not only will you be able to help them create that, but they're going to get really excited. They're going to get really, really excited. There's this cool moment that happens when your prospect starts explaining the answers to these questions, and their face lights up and they start getting really motivated and excited. That's what you're looking for. And as they're answering these questions, once again, you're taking notes. You're writing down the exact words that they are using, because you're going to feed them back later. They have now demonstrated that these words, these specific things, cause them to feel excited, motivated, optimistic, hopeful. You're going to want to use those words later when it's time to close to bring them back into that state. People buy based on emotion, based on positive emotions, when they think that what they're going to do is going to get them what they want. So it's very important that you can help them identify what it is they want and then help them reconnect to those feelings. Absolutely crucial. So take detailed notes when they're sharing this stuff with what words they use, because those words, even if they don't make sense to you, and even if you would not have used those words yourself, that doesn't matter. It's their words. And those words mean something to them. When you say them back later, you're going to notice a shift. That excitement will come back, and they're going to want to move forward. Absolutely crucial. So by helping them develop their own clear positive outcome, they're going to have clarity about what they want. They're going to have expectations about the result, and they're going to have positive emotions driving them forward. They're a very important piece of momentum. So make sure that you note what caused those positive emotions, what words they used, what they talked about. It's going to lead you into your closing strategies later. Once you've discovered everything that's important to them and what they need, then you get to discuss your value. Your unique professional value, it refers to how you, as an individual, can solve a client's problem or fulfill their need. Your unique value is unique to the situation, not unique to you. Yes, you're special. Yes, no one else is like you. And everyone else on this call has a real estate license and can probably do a lot of the same stuff. So being a real estate agent doesn't make you special. Your sales history doesn't make you special. How you can help this individual get exactly what they want in the context of you being there to help them, that is what's going to make you special. That's what's going to give you value in a sales context. So if you can help someone get what they want, that is your value. How it helps them is what makes it unique to the situation at hand. Nobody will do it exactly like you do once you fully understand the need. There are a lot of agents out there who are going to go, oh, you want a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom for $400,000 in this part of town? Cool. And they'll set up an automatic search and they'll hope that something pops up in an email that makes everything work, and they're going to make money for doing almost nothing. Lots of agents operate that way. When you know every detail of how to help this person, the way that you're going to go about doing it will now automatically be different than how other people would who don't have that information. That is a huge part of creating your unique value in the context of this particular prospect. So let's talk about defining your value. You're best suited to help someone get what they want by understanding exactly every detail of what they want. You can learn about what somebody wants better than other people through building rapport, asking great questions, using chunking and values, and future pacing. If you do all that stuff, you're going to have such a clear understanding of what they want and what motivates them that now you can do something with it. Because value is going to be defined by whomever is perceiving it. Meaning you don't get to define your own value to someone else. It's how they perceive your value that's actually going to give you that value. People feel value or feel valued as a person when they deeply connect with someone who understands and supports them. So once again, if you understand them better than any other agent, they're going to feel value from you and valued as a person. Both. This is really, really important. I have absolutely had clients choose to work with me and tell me to my face, I met with all these other agents, nobody asked me these questions, and I didn't think they cared about me. You clearly do. You can help me. You know what I want. I only want to work with you. I love that. I absolutely love hearing that. Not to put other agents down, because that's not what I'm here to do, but because now I've got someone who actually wants to work with me. Not because I happen to be the first one they talk to and they're lazy and don't want to talk to anyone else, but because they really want to work with me. And as all of you know, selling real estate tends to be a pretty stressful event. Something's going to go wrong. Someone's feelings are going to get messed with. It is a stressful, intense thing as a buyer or a seller. We as agents feel plenty of that ourselves, but the buyer and seller going through it, they're going to have far more significant emotions, or at least hopefully they will. If you can keep yours in check, they're the ones going through it. So if they really want to work with you, it's going to make all that other stuff a lot easier. They only kind of happen to be working with you and something goes wrong, bye-bye. They're going to fire you faster than they can do anything else because they don't like how it feels and they don't feel that committed to you and they're ready to go do something else. If they really want to work with you, you can weather that storm. You can get through that stuff because they're going to feel that you really have their back. And by the way, if you're an excellent agent, you do have their back. You're going to care more about them when you know all these things about them in the first place, by the way. how motivated you are to help them succeed is also going to go up. So once you fully understand the prospect's need, all of their needs, then your value becomes the bridge between where they are and where they want to go. And the bridge connects what they want with how they can get it. And this is the most important part. The path to the solution leads through you. You do a great consultation and you map out all the ways that someone can sell their home and then you just leave. Great, now they can do it without you. You have to insert yourself into the plan. You have to be part of the solution. So here's how it works. It's called the link. You're going to discover their need. You're going to clarify that need and their ideal outcome while checking for positive feedback and agreement, making sure that they are really on board. You're going to feed things back to them. You're going to make sure that there's understanding. You're going to future pace that ideal outcome, what they ultimately want. You're going to tell them, think about it. It's already done. It's already successful. You've gotten everything you wanted. You're filling in all the details, helping them build this mental picture or movie of it already being true, exactly the way they want it. They feel amazing about it. You're checking that those positive emotions are there. And then in that moment, that's when you're going to link yourself to the ideal outcome or solution, to their need. And it's going to sound very much like this. So if I could help you get or have or achieve, and you fill in the blank with as many details as you choose. So if I could help you find and buy exactly the home you want, and it's the style that you've been talking about, and it's got that red door that you've always wanted, and when you walk in to the left it looks like this, and to the right it looks like this, and that backyard it's full and it's green, and you've even got that place set because the sellers left it there for you, and you got it for exactly the price you wanted to pay and exactly the timeline and everything, and it all is exactly the way you want it to go. I'm being vague. If I had every detail I'd be filling it in here. Would that be valuable to you? Of course, the answer is going to be yes. If you can help them get everything that they want, then of course the answer is going to be yes. And this is your value, helping them get specifically the outcome that they desire. So if I can help you get that, would that be valuable to you? Yeah, huh? Yes, please help me get that. Okay. And then you hit step 5, which is the close. I'm going to pause here for a moment because this is such a big deal. And a lot of people get it wrong, meaning most people don't do this at all. And then there's the people who kind of know how to do this and they still get it wrong. What questions do you have about creating the link of your value to their needs?
And feel free to just unmute yourselves at this point, gang.
Yeah. Jump in. I'm going to hang out here for a minute. We've covered a lot of material. What questions do you have?
Hey, Eli, Joe Yates here.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, I love this whole thing. It's super good. It's super easy to follow. How hard is it for newer people, or what do you see as far as the connection between somebody putting this into practical application, because of the fact that you really turn into a leader, like you said in this thing, you really have to take control. When you start to see something where, there's going to be agents that are going to be uncomfortable when somebody sends you a property they want to see and you know that it's not on their, they're important to do, or, things on their bullet point list. How do you see people bridging that gap and getting their confidence up to actually implement some of this stuff?
That's a really good question. And there's a few different ways that I would approach it. The first is that you have to set your own boundaries. If you decide that you're going to run this process and maintain relationships this way, then that is a decision you have to live with. If it makes you uncomfortable, it means you're probably doing something new. And I'm cool with new because it's different. You're going to get a different result than if you had done things the way you always did. So that would be the first thing that I would recommend. The second is use your imagination. You've all heard of that saying. No, I totally forgot the saying because I don't use it very often. But essentially, you're going to pretend. You're going to pretend that you have the confidence if you don't actually have the confidence. Just act as if you do. And pretend and pretend and pretend until eventually it's real. Fake it till you make it. That's the one. But I don't use that one very often because when people fake it, then it usually comes off as fake. When I suggest that you pretend that you have the confidence, it means you actually convince yourself you do. You go into that full on, like you're, a little kid pretending, playing make-believe, and you actually step into that world as if you do have the confidence. Now, I say this with a little bit of an internal grin because I come from a background as a professional actor, so pretending to do stuff comes very easily to me. So that's why I recommend go back to that kind of childlike wonderment. That's where the imagination was totally free and had no rules. If you have kids, especially if they're really young, just look to them because they're doing it all the time. But remind yourself what your imagination is actually like. Pretend to feel confident. You can stand in a way that makes you feel confident. You can breathe in a way that makes you feel confident. But here's the bottom line, and mostly for the sake of time. If you're going to take these detailed notes and you're making it clear to your prospect that these notes are relevant, then you have to use them. So if they come at you and they're like, this one, it just came on the market. I really want to see it. Can we get over there today? And you look at the property, because you should before you just drive over there, and you check it against what their criteria are, and something's missing, you have two options. You can either damage your relationship with them by showing them a home that they're never going to buy, or you can strengthen your relationship with them by proving that you care about what matters to them the most. It's up to you.
I want to add to this, by the way. This is Mike speaking, by the way. I don't know if you can see it on the screen.
Yeah, I got you, Mike. How you doing?
Okay, awesome, man. Hey, dude, this is awesome. So much knowledge, dude. Like, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. One of the things that I wanted to add, because when I'm working with new agents, I used to use that saying, fake it till you make it. And then one of the things that I noticed is that, buyers can really tell, like, if you're faking it, they're going to pick up on it. But getting out there and getting the practice is going to help you along the way. Like, you're not going to rock this the first, 2 or 3 times you do this. But it is really important to get the practice. So I think role playing is super important. Find somebody close to you. And again, guys, if you don't have somebody to role play with, reach out to me anytime, or any of these guys. I'm sure we're all willing and able. I love to role play too, until you can get enough buyer consultations in to actually, be well practiced at it. But so faking it until you make it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going out and pretending, right? You're going out and you're doing the best you can with the knowledge that you have until you get really good at it and you find your groove. But man, I'm just telling you, this right here is super, super important. These skills and this process right here will get you to the next level, man. And I super appreciate all this knowledge.
I love what you added, and thank you so much. All right, let's keep going because we got some other content I want to make sure that we get to include here today. So I'm shrinking down the screen again. I can't see all of you anymore. So again, if there's something you want to ask, make sure you just raise your hand and we will continue. All right, so we've established your value. You've created the link. Remember, now you could use one of these other things. What would that be valuable? Would that be of value to you? You could say, would that be valuable or useful or helpful or worthwhile, important or significant? You can put in some of these words. For me, I pretty much always just use this one right here. Would that be of value to you? Because people appreciate things that are valuable to them. That's usually the one that I use. And then we're going to close. So just so that you know, I'm taking you through what is a 12-hour course in under 90 minutes. So again, we're not going deep on everything. There's an entire day. Usually I teach this once a week over 8 weeks. The next time we do it, it's actually going to be a 2-day intensive where it's all day one day and then all day a second day, because I don't have the time in my schedule to do it once a week over 8 weeks anymore. So there's an entire day that's just based on collaboration with your client and goal setting, how to do appropriate goal setting. I'm not going to have time to get into that now. I just wanted to highlight that's a very important part of the process, and is something that I do go into in more detail, just not today. So let's move on to closing strategies. You've gone through all of this. You've gotten rapport. You asked great questions. You discovered the need. You linked your value specifically to that need. And now it's time to close. Well, this is the moment where you're going to get commitment. It's the most important part of the consultation, because either you get the client or you don't. And this is where a surprisingly large number of salespeople lose business. So how come? Fear, anxiety, low confidence that we talked about a moment ago, a lack of perseverance. These can all destroy the hard work that's led up to this moment. So the solution is competence in closing skills and strategies that make this part of the process easy and even fun. I really have a lot of fun closing at this point because I know how to do it. And I've got a lot of different ways to do it based on who I'm talking to and what I think is appropriate. So in the course that I teach, I actually teach 17 different closing strategies. I'm going to share just a few of them with you today. So strategy number 2 is something called tie downs. Tie downs are little add-ons at the end of a sentence. And the sentence, it's formed as a statement. And then the tie down technically turns it into a question, but you're doing it in a way that encourages agreement with the statement. So we've got some examples of tie downs here. It could be, don't you, won't you, isn't it, can't you, can you, doesn't it, shouldn't you, couldn't you, wouldn't you, aren't they, will you, do you. These are all forms of tie downs. But this is the really important thing. They will only work if they're delivered with a downswing tonality, meaning that you're saying it as a command, not a question. So if you were to say to someone, oh, so you're ready to sign the contract, aren't you? And your voice goes up, it makes you sound unsure. And it causes them to really consider the question and if they're ready to move forward or not. A proper tie down, your voice is going to go down. So you're ready to sign the contract, aren't you? You're essentially telling the person to do it from the sound of your voice. So technically it's a question, but you're actually saying it as a command. So this is the home that you're looking for, isn't it? You're ready to move forward with me, aren't you? You're learning a lot today, aren't you? Not, you're learning a lot today, aren't you? And you go, I don't know, am I? No, you're learning a lot today, aren't you? Yeah. It's supposed to cause the person to say yes instead of actually consider if they should. So this is a closing strategy that moves people forward. Your tonality matters a lot. So I'll throw in one extra thing here since we're talking about it. Anytime that you're making calls, warm calls, cold calls, any kind of calls, and you introduce yourself, please introduce yourself in a way that sounds like you know who you are. There are so many agents that I have coached, mentored, trained over the years who will get on a phone call and go, hi, this is Eli from blah, blah, blah. Like, really? Is it? Are you sure? No. Hi, this is Eli. I'm calling from. Mean it. You should at least know your own name with some confidence. Hey, this is Eli. I'm calling you from EXP. Instead of, hey, this is Eli from EXP. Just in the sound of my voice, you're going to either believe me and trust me or not. Please, 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 please say your name with confidence, especially if you're cold calling. Because if they don't feel like you're confident from the first 3 seconds, they're not going to talk to you. All right. moving on. Let's talk about, what is this, strategy number 4. This one's called the conditional close. A conditional close is based on action, and we want action. So it's cause and effect. If X, then Y. It means that as long as certain criteria have been met, then the decision will automatically be made as well. So here are some examples. After I've answered your questions, we will sign the contract. Because we agree on how to price your home, that means that we're ready to work together and can sign the listing agreement now. If you want to work with someone who will always put your needs first and who will fight for you, then you want to hire me. Don't sign the contract until you feel absolutely confident that I am the agent for you. There's a condition for any action that is being taken here. Now, this last one is a little bit wonky. I talk a lot more in detail about that when I have the time. So unless you already understand how to use that, I'd recommend staying away from the negative close because it is more complex, but it's part of the slide that's already here, and I'd feel weird if I didn't at least mention it. But if you tell someone not to do something until they're confident and ready to do it, that's going to create a super confidence when they are ready to do it. So thanks for having me over today. I'm going to put this paperwork right here. Yes, that's the contract to list your home. I don't want you to even sign that or think about that until you feel confident that we've addressed all of your concerns. Then, when they are confident, they're really ready to look at that thing and sign it. So it's setting up a particular kind of emotional state when you do things that way. Strategy 5 is called Just Imagine. We talked a moment ago about using your imagination with getting you into a confident state. We're going to use imagination or what if with the client. It's going to cause their subconscious to consider something that is outside of the present moment. And it allows a prospect to consider the possibilities that exist beyond their current beliefs or objections. Oftentimes, this can easily allow a solution to come to the person's mind that will solve the problem or at least loosen the grip that they have on a particular problem. So let's look at some examples here. Just imagine that you've already sold your home for top dollar because you hired me here today. What has to have happened in order for you to feel totally and completely confident in the decision you made to hire me today? Past tense. Imagine you already feel great about it. Past tense, what made that happen? You want them to get out of the moment and imagine the outcome they actually want. Here's a what if example. What if you could actually have the result you want? If that happens, it doesn't really matter how you got there, does it? Tie down, just to make sure it's really clear, because I introduced that a moment ago, that's a tie down. So we're using a combination of closing strategies in the same close. Or just imagine you could, whatever it is. How did you do it? Past tense. So just imagine you could get the home of your dreams. How did you do it? Just imagine you could sell your home for the amount you want. How did you do it? Just imagine you could hire an agent that you really, really trust. How did you do it? Now, the cool thing is when they give you an answer to something like this, these are new operating instructions for you. Whatever the answer is, do that. Just do it. If you say, how will you know? Or how, if you could imagine that you hired the perfect agent for you, how did you do it? And they say, well, you know, I interviewed them and they were able to tell me about this. And I asked these questions and they were really confident and they knew the market well and they were patient with me. Great. Now you do those things. They just gave you the exact map with the route and all the stops to get them exactly where they want to go.
Hey, Eli, Ryan asked, is this a form of future pacing?
Yes. Yes. Good catch.
Fantastic.
All right, let's take a look at strategy 9. You owe yourself the very best. I love this one. This one is used if your prospect is still considering working with someone else. If they tell you, you know, I think I already found somebody, I'm probably going to go with them. They haven't signed anything yet, That's a great moment to use this particular strategy. You don't owe them anything. You don't owe me anything. But you do owe yourself the very best. People will tap the brakes pretty hard when they realize that what they want is actually the thing that matters. Some people are going to feel uncomfortable because they kind of made a verbal commitment to someone. You can help them feel better about it, saying you don't owe them anything. It's okay. You don't owe me anything either. You haven't met with me yet, but you do owe yourself the very best. You can then add stuff in here that's appropriate for the context. Like, the outcome that you want is the most important thing here. And if I can help you get that, great. If they can help you get that, great. If there's someone else you haven't even met yet, well, we don't really have to go there, but I want to make sure that you get the outcome you want because you owe yourself the absolute best. So I'd love to find out if I can help you. It's just opening them back up. It's starting to help them loosen their grip on a decision that has not been formalized yet. And this is something that, as long as you have confidence in yourself, becomes a very easy thing to say. If you don't think you can help them better than some other agent, then this is no longer ethical. But if you believe that by having the level of a consultation that you've been learning how to do here today, and it's going to get them more information, more clarity, get them exactly what they want, not waste their time, help them win, then this is a very ethical thing to say. So let's imagine now that you've already won. You did it. You did the consultation. They want to work with you. They signed. Yes, fantastic. But as I mentioned earlier, things go wrong. So how do you maintain this relationship over time that you took so much care to create in the first place? Well, because everybody's filters are always in flux, interpretation of information on any given day can vary over long term and short term. Urgency for someone to make a decision can be affected by a lot of different things, like stress, like a buyer deciding to write an offer for something, and there's really stress. Oh my God, there's other people and they want to write, and are we ready? I don't know. And things start messing with how they make decisions, and it can affect your relationship. Trust can be damaged because misunderstandings might show up at some point. Oh, I didn't realize that's what you meant. I'm so sorry. Well, that's 3 weeks ago, and now we screwed everything up. So you got to work on making sure you maintain the relationship. A commitment that was made to you can disintegrate based on new information. And fear can easily disrupt any healthy relationship. So oftentimes, as you're working with somebody, a buyer or a seller, a relationship needs to be maintained by simply refocusing on desired outcomes or reestablishing a foundation of trust. So let's talk just about the goals and outcomes. We don't have time for the trust part of it today. Sometimes clients need to be reminded about what they want. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. Your detailed notes from your consultation can help them remember what motivates them. You can ask them very easily, do you still want this thing that we talked about, or has something changed? Are you willing to give up this thing for this other thing that you're talking about now? So if something actually has changed, use your consultation skills to dig deep for all of the new information that you need. Everything that we talked about earlier, the who, what, where, when, how, the chunking, the future pacing, use all of that, the needs, the wants, the deal breakers. Incorporate the new details with the existing relevant information. Future pace with the new information and include yourself in getting the outcome that they now have defined. Get commitment around that, and that you're going to help them get that new outcome, and just move forward with it. People have the right to change their mind when new information becomes available. Work with it. So this was a rapid fire version of how this course goes, but I wanted to make sure that you know that it's available. We've had some nice feedback today, which I'm truly honored by and I appreciate. So if you want to go through the full training, we haven't done it in a long time because there hasn't been time for it, but we've made time for it. It's going to be happening on January 11th and 13th of 2023. So in a couple of months is when it's going to happen. And if you're interested in taking that, I'm going to share with you the link so that you can. I'm going to drop it into the chat, and you are absolutely invited to sign up. I would love to be able to see you there. I'm going to put the chat in there right now. The link, there you go. So if you're interested in the full training, which goes into a lot more detail and goes into deeper levels of how you can effectively make your consultations convert at a really high level, that's when it's happening. If you're interested in other stuff with success, I know you hear about it a lot. There's group coaching, there's one-on-one coaching, and there's certification if you're interested in becoming a coach yourself. And if you have questions about any of that, you are absolutely welcome to reach out. I'd be happy to talk about it with you. So I'm going to put my email address in the chat. And if you have any questions, reach out anytime. And with our last couple of minutes here, I would love to pause and just get a little bit of feedback. If you have questions or any ahas from today, now is your turn.
I can share a really quick example of the last thing where things go awry and you have to kind of like try to recapture the relationship. I have a very important client that I made a really big mistake on. I called him. I felt like it was something that needed to be said. And I called him and I said, I only have a minute, blah, 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 blah. And what I said to him really pissed him off. He's like, oh, really? Like, you only have a minute, but you took the time to disturb my day. You know, I'm busy. And I was like, OMG. And this is a really important client. And the reason he hired me is because he said, you're the only realtor that cares about me instead of themselves. So like, that's why he hired me. And so I was really upset. I mean, my heart was going. And I just texted him. He texted me back and he said, I like you, but I don't think we're the right fit. I'll talk to my wife about it. So I just texted him back and I said, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I should never have done that. I don't need your business, but I need your friendship. And with that said, I hope we can still work together. And like the next time I saw him, it was hugs and kisses and so happy to see me. He didn't fire me, but I think it was because I just like stepped back, made him right, me wrong. Told him that I don't really care if you fire me, but let's still be friends. And it really just reset the relationship, now stronger than ever. And so anyway, it reminded me of that when you said that point.
I love hearing that. These are important opportunities for us all to learn from. In a different course that I teach, I have a subject called the $30,000 conversation, where something similar happened for me. And I needed to give someone the space to publicly berate me in order for me to maintain my relationship with them. And when he got it out of his system, was able to keep the business. It was $1 million sale, $30,000 check. And when you give people the space to express themselves and can validate their experience, it's a very powerful place to be. It takes some confidence in yourself, though, to allow that to happen. So I appreciate that share, and I'm happy that you were able to keep the relationship.
I gotta say really fast.
Yes, Tyler, please.
So I personally, buyer consultation appointments are like my biggest fire. Right? I teach a class on my team quarterly for my consultation appointments. And after watching this, like, I gotta say, dude, you have just changed more lives than you know.
I appreciate that. I'm thrilled to hear it. Please come to the full training. I would love to be able to help you take it to that level. This was, for as exciting as this was today, it absolutely was like fly by the seat of your pants, lightning speed, missing so much stuff that, yeah, I wish I could put it all into 90 minutes. If I could find a way to do all of it in 90 minutes someday, I promise I will, but it's 12 hours of content that includes practice and working and making sure you can do every single skill set appropriately and effectively, so that you can take this in with the confidence that someone asked about earlier and do it whether you've done this before or not. And the last thing I want to mention here is that those of you who are who are building your teams, who are growing your organization, please, 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 please use this format. It will help you. This is not just for buyers and sellers. This is absolutely for agent attraction. Helping someone discover what their needs are and then speaking directly to that need and offering the value that's appropriate to them not just EXPing all over the place, but actually speaking to their needs. That's where the value is. Use this format for your agent attraction. I strongly, strongly recommend it. So one last time, there's the link in the chat. I see that it's been in there a couple of times. January 11th, 13th. We'll have full day training. We'll have a day off in between so you can breathe. And then we'll be able to send you on your way and make a huge boost in your conversion rate. So thank you for being here. Super appreciate the time and the opportunity. Jeff, Lexi, Brian, thank you so much for bringing me in. Ali, so great to see you. And everyone else, if you want to reach me, eli@success.com. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of you, hopefully a lot of you, in January.
Woohoo! Eli, that was incredible. Thank you so very much. Everyone who's been here today and spent this time, absolutely astounding. And by the way, can't recommend anything that Eli stamps his name on. Automatically endorse, endorse, endorse. I'm telling you, it's not a waste of your time, not a waste of your money. If you want to go deep, go the distance, join Eli on those dates. He doesn't do this very often, guys. So this is kind of like a one-shot deal. If you're going to do it, now's your chance. Not to put any pressure on that, but I just hope you guys understand what a big offer that is. Eli, again, 90 minutes with a crew and didn't charge us a dime, by the way, guys, or that I know of. Maybe we'll get a bill later. No,
This one's on the house.
You're amazing, my friend. Thank you so very much. And thank you everyone again for spending your time here today with the community. We love you guys and hope to see you next one. Bye, guys.